Buongiorno and benvenuto to my patio in northern Italy. In this video, I'm continuing the restoration of Zio Dino's vintage 1986 Wilier Triestina Ramato road bike. Today I am disassembling, cleaning, reassembling and installing the original Campagnolo Victory brake calipers and levers. I will also show you how to replace the original brake pads with fresh Coolstop R8 pads. Before I get started, just a quick reminder to check out the other videos in this restoration series. Links in the description box below. Here I have the front brake caliper. It is a Campagnolo Victory model. Watch the second video in this restoration series to see how I remove it from the bicycle. You will need a 10mm wrench to remove the brake pad holder. There is a nut and washer on the outside of the caliper arm. I'll show you how to remove the brake pad from the holder a little later. The fixing bolt requires a 5mm hex to undo. The front brake also has a spacer that goes between the caliper and the fork crown. I then use a 10mm wrench to undo the first bolt at the front of the caliper. And then a 13mm wrench to undo the nut behind it. This reveals a ridged washer. Then it is time to release the spring at the back of the brake caliper. And once it is off, the caliper arms come apart easily. There are a couple of thin washers between the arms. Finally, the pinch bolt, which is 8mm, unscrews from the brake tension lever that is not removable. And there we have it. This exploded view of the brake caliper can be found on my Twitter and Instagram, links below. If you are wondering, the rear brake is almost identical to the front. The only difference is that it has a shorter fixing bolt to attach it to the frame. These old brake pads have a very simple design. The pads themselves are held in place by friction, rather than a little fixing bolt found on modern brake cartridge systems. However, removing the pad from the holder is easier said than done. You'll need a thin but strong piece of plywood or perspex like this, with a 9mm hole drilled near the center and edge of the long side. Fix the brake pad holder in place, making sure that the open end of the holder is facing out. Then find a sharp corner of a table or similar. You'll also want a pair of thick gloves to avoid skinning your knuckles. Line up the brake holder so that only the pad is contacting the table's edge, and pull. Reassembling this Campagnolo Victory brake caliper is a fiddly business. However, it is not too complicated if you remember the order in which the pieces came off. Check the exploded view of this brake caliper shown previously in this video. Timestamps in the description box below. I am placing a square of electrical tape at the point where the two arms contact each other when they are completely open to prevent scratches. I'll remove it once the brakes have been completely installed with cables attached. Don't forget to grease any threads. The final brake tension will be set once the brakes have been fully installed. Now to install the new brake pads into the brake holder. The pads I've decided to use are the CoolStop R8 in the salmon compound, which should have fantastic braking performance, wet or dry. These fresh pads are a lot softer than the old ones I just removed. However, I'm still going to use the same method to install them as I would use to remove them. And finally, to reattach the brake holder to the caliper. The brake holder should be orientated with the closed end facing towards the front of the bicycle. This is due to the direction of rotation of the bicycle wheels. Since this is the rear brake, that orientation is towards the back side of the brake caliper. It is the opposite for the front brake. With both the Campagnolo Victory brake calipers reassembled, it's time to sort out the matching brake levers. Here I have the Campagnolo Victory brake levers, which I removed from the handlebars in my last video. They are a very simple design. Here you can see with the one that I've already disassembled that there is no spring in them. At the top of the lever is the cable stop. Behind it is where the clamping bolt is located, and below it is a small grub screw that holds the pivot bolt in place. Step 1 to disassemble these brake levers is to remove the hoods. They slide, with some persuasion, off the back of the lever body. Then all that remains is the clamping collar bolt, which you'll need an 8mm socket to undo. Note that there is a small washer behind the nut that can be easily lost. Reassembling these Campagnolo Victory brake levers is just as easy as taking them apart. Fortunately, they are identical, so you can't mix up left and right. Remember to grease the threads on the clamping collar bolt. The pivot points on the lever will need some lubrication as well. I am using this cheap dry lube, which I hope won't create a mess by attracting dust like a regular oil would. On to the brake hood installation. These original hoods are beyond rescue. Fortunately, I've managed to source a new replica pair online for an acceptable price. They appear to be a good match. Before installing them, I'm making sure that my workspace and hands are super clean. To help with installation, I'll be coating the inside of these new brake hoods with talcum powder. Carefully slide the hood over the rear of the brake lever body, making sure not to rip it. Push it all the way forward into place. Check that the rubber hood is not being pinched by the lever. This underside area will be where cracks and tears will develop over time, so it's worth ordering a second or third pair of hoods now before they become unavailable. Anyway, these replica hoods are a perfect fit. Now to check the weights. The Campagnolo Victory brake calipers have a combined weight of 351 grams, and the matching brake levers have a combined weight of 221 grams. That's a total of 572 grams. Reinstallation of the brake caliper is very straightforward, so I'll be hyperlapsing through it quickly. However, there are several things to note. Firstly, the two calipers are distinguished by the length of their fixing bolt. The one with the longer fixing bolt is the front brake. Secondly, I've needed to add a washer between the rear brake caliper and the seat stay bridge to allow the caliper arms to clear the seat stays, since I won't be reinstalling the rear rack. Thirdly, I've greased the fixing bolts with anti-seize compound. The fixing bolts require a 5mm hex. Since I will still need to do the final alignment with the new wheels installed, I'm not worried about that yet. The brake levers wiggle on and are aligned with the flat of the drops and each other. I'm using a spirit level to get it perfect. They need to be fully tightened into place because they can't be adjusted once the cables are installed. And here are the recabled brakes. I've gone with white cable outers opposed to the original black because I think they look cooler. Unfortunately, the footage I shot for the recabling was unusable. But needless to say, it was tedious. One thing to add is that I've routed the front brake on the left because my wife, who'll be riding this bike, is a lefty. I will have to revisit the brakes once I have the new wheels installed to make the final adjustments to the brake pad alignment, caliper alignment, and brake cable tension. But that's all for now. What do you think about the white cable outers? Should I have stuck with black? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified when the next video in this restoration of Ziodino's 1986 Wilier Triestina Ramato road bike is available. Arrivederci!